Maramatwimba, the Honourable two Ministers from Ba, Honourable Praveen Bala or Kumar, Honourable Rosie Akbar, of course our Honourable Member of Parliament who is also from Ba, Honourable Viam Pillai, the Ms. Doughton, and of course all the Soroptimists from all over Fiji who are here. A very good morning to all of you. It's a huge change from the past 5 days. We've been in Parliament, and so the exchange of and the manner in which views have been exchanged is very different to this morning's proceedings. I'd like to just very quickly not give a very long speech. Firstly, I'd like to thank Soroptimist International Fiji for the hard work that they put in particular with the numerous projects around the country. You know, many times a lot of the work does go unnoticed, but it does not mean it's not appreciated. And as was highlighted by Mrs. Doughton, that all of you are doing volunteer work, and I think it requires a particular level of energy, a particular level of commitment to be able to carry out this work, and many times unacknowledged, but to have the level of commitment also means that you are actually believe in what you're doing. And I think that is a value that we must always appreciate. So I'd like to thank you for all the work. There are many people in Fiji who do need assistance. And I think what is also very critical is that in providing such assistance through NGOs, that they're able to tie up with government and government's policies. Because, for example, if you decide or identify that you're going to build a borehole because you have a particular area where there's no water, you must be able to talk to government, because government may also have a similar plan to put a borehole in that area too. So we don't want duplication and wastage of resources. And I think that is very, very critical, and I find that some of the NGOs do go off and do things on their own. Similarly, we've told our development partners, you know, from overseas on a bilateral basis, on a multilateral basis, that they must try and tie in with the work that government is doing. Because as you know, under the Bainimarama government and then the Fiji First government, the amount of infrastructure investment that has taken place is unprecedented. The amount of money that has been put in roads, water, electricity, the amount of people that now have access to these basic fundamental amenities is unsurpassed. So, and I think it is very critical, if that's one message I can give to you, and your national body can also liaise with the respective ministries. You have the two critical ministers here with us. Both of them are from Ba. We obviously like to make fun of people from Ba in Parliament. As I was complaining to them, I said, look, I refuse to come down to Ba for this function because you're the only town in Fiji that does not have a hotel. The richest town in Fiji but does not have a working hotel. But these two ministers obviously are very, very critical, because the Minister for Infrastructure obviously is responsible for the infrastructure works pertaining to roads, water and electricity. And on the other hand, if the Minister for Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, or some people normally say social welfare, who also identifies gaps where people who may have fallen through the cracks, so to speak, and they need assistance. So I think these are the two very important ministers that Soroptimist International needs to work with. We also have the Minister for Rural and Maritime Development, Honourable Seruratu, who also very closely ties and works in with these two ministers. So if I could suggest that to you, because we found recently, in the recent past, that some NGOs go off and work on a particular project, and then we find there's a duplication. Resources everywhere in the world is limited, and therefore there's a need to work on a national strategic level, and in that way your hard work will also be rewarded, and in fact it will be very, very self-fulfilling. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it would be amiss of me not to tell you about the budget that recently got passed, in fact yesterday, on Thursday, and the various laws that have been linked to that got passed yesterday. The budget that has been put in has been termed by many as the people's budget, and I think it is very critical to understand why it is the people's budget. You may have heard that we've reduced VAT from 15% to 9%. We have also reduced duty on many items that people use for their everyday usage. For example, things like deodorants, tampons, unsanitary pads generally, undergarments, clothes. These are everyday basic needs, hygienic needs that people need access to. And I found it quite startling that when the other side, on the opposition, said, well, these things really poor people or people who have low income don't really need. They only need rice, flour, tin fish, cooking oil, powdered milk, and kerosene. People who earn less does not mean that they are the only things they require in their lives. We need to uplift the dignity of all Fijians in Fiji. And these basic items are very critical for them. Of course, the the VAT on all other items, including potatoes, garlics, onion, salt, sugar, everything else that you pay VAT on at the moment will go down from 15 to 9% come 1 January. So overall, anybody's shopping basket, the cost of living will come down at least by 4.5%. But if you add on the duty reductions, it'll go down even further. So these are the types of measures that have been put in place. But what is also critical is that we have continued our investment in infrastructure. And infrastructure, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very critical. And what I mean by infrastructure is accessibility to infrastructure. For the example that I like to use, for many years everybody has said that the Sigatoka Valley is the vegetable and fruit salad bowl of Fiji. But if you looked at the roads, they were atrocious. So by the time a farmer who's planting tomatoes up in the hills brings his tomatoes, it goes bump, bump, bump all the way through, the longevity of that tomato is reduced at least by 30%. So it does not last long, it gets damaged. Now the durability, the quality of those tomatoes, to give you a simple example, is 100%. It's a lot better, it lasts longer. So these are the kind of strategic investments we are making. In Nambuwalu to Rakiraki highway, that's now opened up Vanuatu. So it gives those people accessibility to better infrastructure. It opens up accessibility to those lands where people will develop. So as an organization, you need to be aware of what is happening. We are now completing the entire round Viti-level grid. Many people who just lived a few kilometers away from Tavua and Rakiraki did not have electricity. I mean, that is quite shameful. People living in villages and various other outlying areas did not have accessibility to running water, to electricity, still using pit toilets. These are the very fundamental issues that we need to address in our society. It not only means better productivity, but it also means as an individual human being, your level of dignity is improved. When you have access to basic hygiene services, it makes you feel good as a human being. Many of us take that for granted. In the same way, at the moment I've been using crutches, and you take your legs for granted, and I'm sort of hobbling around at the moment, it's getting better. When you have something and then you don't have it, you'll realize how much you take things for granted. But unfortunately, many people in Fiji also have not ever had these things. And it is our responsibility as a society to ensure that all Fijians, irrespective of the background, irrespective of where they live, who they are, must have accessibility to these things. This is why it is quite a tragedy, and I have to say this publicly, that in the past few days in particular, from Monday to Wednesday the debate seemed to be okay, but Thursday and Friday the opposition fell into the old politics of making an ethnic tinge to every single thing. They turned everything into a racial issue, into an ethnic issue, and that is the bane of Fiji. That is what has led to our detriment. We should be looking and analyzing every single thing in our country on a basis of needs, on a basis of means testing. You do not go out, and I'm sure your organization does not go out and say, oh, do we do this project here? Oh, let's see how many Indians, Fijians, this is the old way of thinking. We don't do that. You should not do that. What you should be doing is saying, is there a need? Are these people poor? Do they have accessibility or not? That's the way that we should be looking at our society in every single thing. When we appoint people, Do we say, oh, let's appoint this person because he's of this or she's of this particular religious faith, or that ethnic group, or because they belong to that family, or because they have that social status? No. As I've said so many times, when your water stops running in your taps, when there is no electricity, what do you want? You want the engineer to come and fix up the water system so you have running water in your tap. Do you ask what ethnic group they are? Do you ask what church they go to, what temple they go to, what mosque they go to? Do you ask what province they've come from in Fiji? No. You just want the water in your tap. And the reason why you can get water in your tap is that you need the best person to do the job. You need the best engineer to be there. And that is what is critical. And as a country, if we can get over this very limited way of viewing our society, limited way of viewing our country, limited way of viewing projects, accessibility, then Fiji's potential will be unsurpassed. We've got enormous potential, ladies and gentlemen. And this potential can also be realized, cannot be realized without your assistance, without the assistance of your type of organizations. So I would like to thank all of you for the invitation, Madam President. And I'd like to also wish your organization all the best. As you know, we have a very good working relationship with the organization. We're here to assist and work together with you. We look forward to your cooperation with us, your collaboration with us. It's good to see that you are spread throughout Fiji. I'd also like to just add one more thing. You probably need to also gain the membership of a lot more younger women too. It is very, very critical. You know, in the last elections, nearly a third of the 592,000 voters were below the age of 30 or 32. That number, that proportion will increase even more significantly. Fiji has got a very young population base. I can also tell you that the Fiji First government received an overwhelming majority of votes from women and younger people. That's our strength. Because we were able to appeal to the women voters, because they're obviously a lot more sensible, and also the younger voters, because the younger voters look to the future. The younger voters look to the future, and that's what the Fiji First government looks into, is into the future. So I think for any organization, whether it's a political organization, an NGO organization, to be able to maintain your currency, if you like, we must be able to tap into the energy of the young people. And we want to work together. Of course, the Ministry of Youth is there. There's obviously a lot of issues there that need to be resolved. But you'll find that a lot of our attention is in that area. And we look forward to working with all of you. I'd like to also take this opportunity to wish all the people who are receiving various acknowledgements and awards this morning. And thank you individually for your hard work. And I'm sure that sometimes words aren't enough to thank you, but from the bottom of our hearts, we'd like to thank you, and I wish you all a very, very good morning. Minaka, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is one of the charitable organizations in Suba.
Okay, coming.